This is our introduction to exercise 6E and exercise 6F on finding the equation of a straight line graph using 2 points on the graph and using a CAS calculator to do the same thing on pages 281 and 282 of your textbook. They're very short exercises and it's really just an additional skill for you guys to use. Last lesson you would have remembered that we looked through how to find the equation of a straight line if you can find a point, for example the point being the y-intercept and the other point being some coordinate, and then we just find the slope, find the y-intercept, and then write them in the equation. So that's what our do now question here is about. We identified earlier that the gradient should be negative, or the slope should be negative, because the graph is going down as you go towards the right. Okay, so we've got our points, and I'm going to write it up here just so it's super clear what they are. -2 and 8, and the other point I have is 0, 2. Now, to find my a values, or my y-intercepts, I'm going to write a. Of course, we know that the value is 2. It's just where does the line intercept or intersect with my y-axis, which is just 2. Easy. The more difficult part is to find the slope. So to find the slope, or the value of b, do I want to use the formula, or do I want to use just the rise run thing? Okay, sure, let's use a formula. So let's define this as, x1, y1, x2, y2. Again, it doesn't matter which way you define it. For example, you can call the first coordinate 2 instead. As long as it's consistent, it's fine. So the formula is y2, which is 2, minus y1, which is 8, over x2, which is 0, minus x1. So is that correct? Are we happy with that? Why not? Thank you very much. It should be minus -2 or +2, but we'll work with that later. Which means 2 minus 8 gives us -6. -2 gives us +2, which means the answer is -3. Then we just write it in our form. So of course we have y equals to a plus bx, which we can replace the letters of a with 2 from here, and replace the letter of b with 3 here. Is that correct? Why not? Thank you very much. We have to make sure we include the negative, which leaves it as 2 minus 3x, or -3x plus 2, same thing. Any questions? Great. So this process generally works when you've been given a y-intercept, and it only works when you've been given a y-intercept because it very clearly labels what a is. Right? In this situation, that was the easiest part of the question. Just look at where it intersects with the y-axis, and then write that value for a. However, you're not always going to be given that. What happens if you've been given something like this? There is no y-intercept for you to just take out there, so we're going to actually have to be a little bit more creative. This process, and I want you guys to write down these steps. These are super important, and I've already shorthanded them for you, but if you'd like to shorthand it even further, you're more than welcome to do so. This next process will always work, no matter what kind of linear graph you've been given. However, it does take more effort. So if you've been given a graph with the y-intercept, you might as well use the other method. But if you can't be bothered learning both methods, and you only want to learn one, this one will be the one, because it will always work for any linear graph. So the first step is to find the slope using 2 points. It's the same as we've done before. And the second step is a little bit different. We're going to substitute the value that we just found, the slope, into our y equals a plus bx. And then third step, we sub one of the points into the equation. It doesn't matter which one because they're both points on the line. And then we sub a and b into y equals to a plus bx. A lot of steps, but I'll show you what that looks like on paper. In the example on the right hand side, you can see it says find the equation of the line that passes through the points 2, 1 and 4, 10. We've been given 2 points, and if you look at the graph on the right hand side, I know it's cropped off a little bit, there is no y-intercept given. Now, if we were to continue this graph infinitely, would there be a y-intercept? Yeah, absolutely. You could probably estimate what the y-intercept would be, but we can't just estimate, we have to actually calculate it, or calculate the line instead. So I've got those 2 points. I'm going to follow the first step and say find the slope using the 2 points. Again, I'm going to use my formula. I'm going to write it up here. B equals to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Call this one x1, y1, x2, y2. I know it's really small. Can you guys read it up the back? Kind of? Yes? Okay, lovely. I'm using my formula, so that means that b equals to 10 minus 1 over 4 minus 2. I know I've gone through that a little bit quickly, but I'm hoping that you guys, it's a revision for you guys at this stage. Simplification, that gets me 9 over 2, or 4.5. I don't mind which way you write it. Any questions about that? I'm seeing a few confused faces, and I'm not sure it's because I've gone too quickly or it just doesn't make sense at all. Okay. Next step is to substitute that into our, our equation. So I'm going to write it in a different color so we can see. Y equals to a plus bx. And instead of writing b, I'm going to write 9 over 2x. If you would like to work with decimals, you're more than welcome to leave it as 4.5, by the way. Any questions so far? Happy with that? Lovely. Now, what we would normally do at this stage is to just write down the value of a, but of course we don't have the value of a. So what we can do instead is what I like to call using an anchor point. If we substitute, for example, 2, 1, we can use that as a point and say, well, it's a point on the line, which means that it must be true. If I use the point 2, 1, I can replace the y with 1. And then I'm going to write this rest. And of course I can replace the x with 2. So those values come from here and here. So that's the y is replaced with the 1 and the x is replaced with a 2. It will work exactly the same if you substitute the second coordinate, so the 4, 10, it will work the same way. Any questions so far? Okay. Now we just need to solve for a, because everything else is a constant, it's a number, isn't it? So I'm going to write 1 equals to a, and now what's 9 divided by 2 times by 2? 9 divided by 2 times by 2? 9, that's it. Because they cancel each other out, so we end up with this. And so therefore, if I minus 9 on both sides, that gives me, I'm going to write it over here, negative 8 equals to a. Now, if I look at my graph, does it make sense for my y-intercept to be about negative a? Yeah, that makes sense. If you end up with something like positive 7, obviously you know you've done something wrong. So negative 8, done. Have you finished all the steps? Have you defined the equation? No, what else do I have to do? Thank you very much. I have to put it back into the equation. So we've got all of the information. So that's y equals to, and I'm following this one right here. I'm saying, well, I know what, generally speaking, I don't know why, because remember, it's always y equals blah, 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 so we're leaving it as y. Equals a, which I know is negative 8, plus b, which I know is 9 over 2. And then, of course, I have to write the x. Negative 8 plus 9 over 2x. Any questions? Okay. I'll leave that up on the screen. I'll zoom out a little bit for you guys to see that while I scroll down. There we go. Can you get you guys to open up your calculators for me? Thank you very much. Calculators. We're going to be doing the same process we did just then using a calculator. Here we go. Alright, so once you've opened up your calculator, once you click the statistics, which is the third option there, and enter the coordinate values into the list. So typically speaking, we always do our x values first in the first column, and then y values in the second column. So you're going to put our first coordinate, which is listed here, by the way. Our first coordinate is 2, 4, so you go 2, oops, 2, why is that not coming up? There we go, and 4. It'll come up as text on the bottom. So for example, if you type 4, look at the bottom, and then just hit enter, and then hit 10 there. So your numbers from left to right, top down, should be 2, 4, 4, 10. Those are your coordinates. All good? Lovely. Now, once you've done that, to find the equation of the line in the form that we're used to, you need to go to Calc, which is at the very top, and then you need to click Regression, and then of course it's a linear line, so we're going to click Linear Regression. and you should end up with this screen here. Any questions so far? Am I going too quickly? Yes.
I press calc and it opens up the other thing. Where's the regression?
Alright, once you've done that, you should make sure you see the set calculation menu at the top, and then just hit OK for now. Because it should be in this format. If it's not, let me know. Yes?
Could you just redo that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing we do is you go to our menu, and then statistics. You're going to put in the numbers 2, 4, 4, 10, because that's the numbers that come up here. Remember, it's X coordinate in the first column, Y coordinate in the second column. And then you go to calc at the top, and then regression, and it should give you a couple of options. Of course, there's a linear line, so we're going to hit linear regression, and you should end up with list 1, list 2, 1, off. You shouldn't have to touch that unless someone else has used a calculator. And then just hit OK, and you should end up with something like this. Any questions? Okay, so the results are given in the stat calculation dialog box. So in this situation, you can see the value of A is 3, and of course it's given it to us in this format. Just double check on your calculator. I want you to select this bottom one actually, because that's what we're used to. I want you to select the bottom one, so it should say y equals to a plus bx, that's the format we're used to. And it should give us this answer here. So, if I was to write it out, all I already know is that the value of a is -2, and the value of b is 3. So, if I put in, I write a equals to -2, and b equals to 3, because I know the format's provided to me up here, I know it's y equals to -2 plus 3x. Because I've just put them back into the y equals to a plus bx equation. Of course, if you write y equals to 3x minus 2, same thing, that's fine. It's just that we're more used to this format in general maths. Any questions? Okay.